Hi, I'm coming today from Lancaster, California, where it's 103 outside, but we're thankful because it was 110 yesterday. Wow. Okay, we're going to continue in Romans chapter 1. And it says, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have clearly been seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Let's look into that a little bit. So, just as a quick section here, we're hitting a new section of the book of Romans. And we're going to be talking about the three types of guilty there are. The first type of guilty is coming up right now in this section of Romans 1 18 to 32, and it says, the wicked are guilty. Now, that may already make sense to some of you, that the wicked would be guilty. But the next section in Romans 2 1 through 16 is going to say the moralist are those who are good people, if you will. They're guilty. The last section is that the religious, in this case, the Jews, but if you're religious, it definitely applies to you, are guilty. The conclusion is found in Romans 3 9 through 20, maybe a few more verses beyond, where it says, everyone is guilty before God. So we're going to enter the first section of that when we hit this Romans 1 18 through 32. And you may not resonate with some of this. You might say, you might be the moralist or the religious, and you go, it doesn't relate to me. But actually, we should, every section to some degree should resonate to all of us. Okay, we'll go more into that when we hit Romans chapter 2. So there's this immediate contrast to the righteous. Remember, verse 17 of Romans 1 said, the just, the righteous, will live by his faith, or the righteous will live by faith. So it's talking about righteousness, and then it immediately goes to this opposite extreme of the wrath of God being revealed or poured out from heaven. And the word for wrath is the Greek word orge. And the idea of orge is like it's a balloon that's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger before it erupts or explodes. And it's, you can see that it's not like God's wrath is just sudden. He's very patient and slow, but it does eventually erupt. And so the wrath of God is being revealed. It is being revealed currently from heaven against all the godliness and wickedness of people. So where's this wrath coming from? It's coming from heaven. And who's it going against? The godless and the wicked. Now, it doesn't say it's going against the godless and the wicked people, but I like how it's phrased, the godlessness and wickedness of people. In other words, it's not going against the people, but it's going against the godlessness and the wickedness of the people. Um, who, the people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. So, real quick question. What's the difference between godliness and wickedness? Right? He uses both terms, that this is the wrath of God is going against both. And I would say, to me, the godliness deals with sins against God, if you will, evils, wickedness against God. The wickedness would deal with evils are the sins against man. So it's God's wrath is going against both. And you can find these nicely summarized in the Ten Commandments. The first four commandments deal with sins against God, their godliness, like taking the name of the Lord in vain, or having other gods before him, or maybe not honoring the Sabbath. But the others deal with crimes against humanity, like covetousness, or committing adultery, or lying, or stealing. So God's wrath is going against those that are doing both godlessness and wickedness. See, you offend God even when you do something against him. And when you do something against man, both offend God. He has a righteous standard that we should be living by. But these can also be summed up even more succinctly in what Jesus said, where he said, love the Lord thy God, the greatest commandment. Someone asked him, what's the greatest commandment? And he said, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength. By the way, this is just a quote from the Old Testament, except Jesus added the word mind, which I like that he did. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, instead of just saying strength. He said mind and strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. Loving God, the Lord, and deals with godliness, and loving your neighbor deals with not being wicked. Okay, so God's wrath is against those who are violating these principles and who suppress the truth by their wickedness. What is suppressing the truth? What is holding the truth back in their lives? It's their wickedness. And the word for suppressing, it's like they know the truth, but they're holding it down so they don't know it. They're pushing it down, but inside they kind of do know. And what's doing that? What's holding it back? It's their evil, it's their wickedness and ungodliness. And the word for suppressing in the King James version, this older translation is perfect. It says it's holding it down, like holding a ball underwater, right? You have this picture of a dog or a puppy holding a ball underwater. It wants to come up, but the wickedness is pushing it down. And just let me go back to that. It's just a practical thing. As if you're not relating to this and you say that's the wicked doing that by what they're doing, no wonder they can do that. I look in a mirror myself when I read these verses and I say to myself, is there times that I have held the truth of God down in my life because of my actions or my thoughts or because of my evilness or godlessness? Because I think it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to justify maybe or just say, you don't want to hear the truth of God. You don't want to acknowledge it at that moment when it's pointing to you that you could be wrong. So maybe you relate, maybe you've been like that where you said, you know what, I I don't want to serve God right now because I'm doing this thing, or I don't even want to think about God right now because I'm doing this thing. Well, that's kind of a suppress. I mean, it's a little more obvious. It's not a complete suppression, but it is a pushing down of the truth by your deeds. What you do can influence how you see the truth. We have that nature to want to justify ourselves. Oh, what's that called when you look for something that you already believe? I forget the name of it right now. Okay, so since what may be known of God is plain, it's evident, it's obvious to them because God has made it plain. God has shown it to them. How do we know that what could be known of God was obvious? Because it says God made it. It wasn't me who showed it to them. God has showed it to them. So what can be known about God? What can be known about God is plain. It's evident. People know about God. C.S. Lewis put it well because when he was an atheist. Did I lose the camera? That can't be good.